Hi guys, this is Silverpaw Reads, bringing you another chapter of Sontails Dreams Come True. Now before we get started, I just want to remind you to please leave a like on the video, a comment down below, and share it around if you have any friends that want to listen to some cool fan fictions. Anyways, let's get started with Chapter 14, Science Fair Blues. Blaze lay awake, tossing and turning all night. Her normally warm blankets offered no comfort, simply cooking her under their immense heat. Her pillow, normally a fluffy cloud which allowed her to soar into the sky amongst her dreams, felt like a heavy stone weighing her down, tethering her to this earth. How could she sleep when she knew the things that she did? It plagued her, the image of the two of them. Two guys, what did they think they were doing? But most importantly, why did she care so much? Sonic and Tails had been best friends with Blaze since year 7, and in those 4 years she had grown to trust them completely. Especially Tails, who she began treating like a little brother. She'd always thought of asking the little fox out if Silver ever left her. Unfortunately, the homophobia of their community had been so ingrained into the inhabitants since a young age, there was a piece of her that hated the two. Should I tell anybody? She sighed loudly to herself. I don't want them to die or leave my life, but they deserve that for what they did. But what's wrong with it? Everything! They found love. Who am I to judge? You need to tell everyone before their gayness rubs off on you. That's not how it works. Blaze was having an incredible battle inside her head. Her inner self and heart waged against the external thoughts of what had been instilled inside her, wrenching control of her thoughts. She didn't know what to do and got no sleep that night or the following Sunday, leaving her with red-rimmed eyes, deep black outlines around her pupils, and bags upon her bags. Hey babe, what happened to you? Silver asked as she walked into the first class of the new year, collapsing onto the small wooden desk. Just don't worry about it, Blaze sighed, dozing off before the cobalt hedgehog and his golden best friend walked through the doors. Hey everybody, Sonic announced as he moved through the door, flashing his thumbs up at the room while donning a large toothy grin. Knuckles got up to bump his fist. Silver gave him a high five and most of the girls in the room began drooling over him. I don't get why every girl swoons over you, Knuckles said frustratingly. I know why, Tails said in his head. What was that? Sonic asked. Tails suddenly shot up, his spine straightening out as he almost jumped out of his skin. Nothing, just thinking out loud, I guess, he sweated. Did you just say you knew why? Knuckles asked, scratching his head. Sonic turned his head, shooting daggers at his friend. No, I said... Tails stalled, but both hedgehogs and the echidna watched him, eyes focusing on him as he tried to think of an excuse when suddenly the door was flung open and a tall, thin squirrel walked into the room, donning a large, flowing light blue dress that accentuated her hips, which swayed mesmerizingly from side to side. Seats! Now, class, she snapped, sipping her morning coffee from a cardboard takeaway container. The students all quickly ran over to take their seats, Tails faster than anybody else to avoid the situation he had dug himself into. The teacher that walked in was a squirrel with long flowing auburn hair and donned a long flowing orange dress, which flared out at the ankles, not dissimilar to a gown that a princess would wear to a ball when courting princes from far-off kingdoms. Although she looked strangely formal for a year 11 teacher, that didn't cease the incessant stares from almost every guy in the room. However, they hardly noticed her get-up because they could not take their eyes off of her large breasts, equal in size to those of the previous black and white teacher. How lucky we are to have Rouge, and now this one? Knuckles whispered, pounding the fist of Sonic who sat next to him. Just wait until she falls for my charms, Sonic smirked, returning the gesture. He could feel the heat and discomfort of the glares that the golden kit was sending him, judging him silently, but Sonic had assured Tails that he only acted this way so people wouldn't think that they were weird. Look what I found the other day, Shadow announced proudly as he swiped open his phone and showed the crowd of guys who were gathered around his desk. On the phone was a website that had a plethora of videos and recordings of males and females doing sexual activities. Whoa, that's so cool, man, Knuckles agreed. Where'd you find that? Silver asked. Shads, you have certainly outdone yourself this time, Sonic admitted, nodding to the Midnight Hedgehog. What, is a certain faker jealous of me? He bragged. What's your problem, Shads? Whatever it is, I bet it's hard to pronounce. Sonic smirked. That's real rich coming from you. Hey, by the way, I think you dropped something on the ground. Sonic looked down to see if he had dropped anything, but instantly got frustrated when Shadow continued. Oh, don't worry, it's just your dignity. I see that you have set the time aside to humiliate yourself. It's quite sad, really, that you need to watch others having sex to get off. That doesn't make you cool, it just shows everyone that you can't get any yourself. Tails suddenly piped up, overwhelmed with disgust by his classmates who were all enjoying the horrid display, especially at Sonic. A chorus of laughters erupted from the teenagers, and Shadow simply stood up and stormed out of the room fuming. "Nice save there, bud," Sonic replied with a toothy grin. Tails gripped his wrist and walked him to the corner of the room and began to ask him about why he was ogling those women like that. "Look, Tails, it really isn't like that. I just need to pretend that I'm into that stuff so we don't get found out, okay?" Sonic explained. "Okay, Sonic, I believe you." "Mr. Prower, is my teaching style interrupting your little daydream?" the teacher asked, snapping Tails out of his momentary flashback. "No, everything's fine, miss," Tails began, but trailed off when he realized that he didn't even know what his female teacher's name was. "Just call me Alicia," she beamed, returning to the happy tone of voice, and smiled at the fox. "I heard from Rouge that you're the class prodigy, am I correct?" He wishes. Unfortunately, just because he's smart, it doesn't save him from being a nerdy loser," Shadow muttered under his voice, not making eye contact with the angry gaze of Alicia. "You bet, Alicia. Tails here's the smartest kid you'll ever meet, isn't that right, buddy?" Sonic laughed, piping up to defend him from the likes of Shadow. I guess so," Tails stuttered, embarrassed as he rubbed the back of his neck with his hand, but couldn't help grinning all the same. "I'm going to assume you know about the science fair project coming up," Alicia asked, kneeling down to his level. Tails nodded his head in response. The eyes of every student in the room was focused precisely on the conversation going on in the middle of the room. "This year, we're competing against the most prestigious schools around, and we can only select 3 students. I would like you to be one of them, Tails." "Oh, wow, thank you so much!" Tails squealed with delight, notably bobbing up and down with excitement. "Great! It's next week. I'd like you to come in next Saturday to the gym to present your project with the rest of the school's top students." Next week?" Tails trailed off, suddenly fear gripping him. This was one of the most important moments of his life. This was his chance to prove to everyone that he was smart. This was his chance to get the job as one of the top scientists in his community, like he always wanted. But how could he do that in 1 week alone? "I know it's hard to finish something in time, but I'll give you the rest of the day off to start work. I'll see you tomorrow, Tails." She smiled, ushering the young golden fox out of class before she turned her attention back to the class and began teaching them with the daily plans that she had constructed. Tails spent the rest of the week working on his project. Countless hours, sleepless nights, and many missed meals filled his future as he sat at his desk, working on plans for his creation. It wasn't until the Wednesday night that his solitude was finally broken. "Knock, knock." "Go away, Mom. I don't need anything right now," Tails yelled dismissively, not even bothering to move his head to the direction of the door. "Hey, buddy, how's it hanging?" Sonic asked, peering inside the door and looking upon the mess inside Tails' bedroom. It was as if a bomb had exploded inside his room. Empty bowls with cutlery littered the floor. Broken pencils and pencil shavings covered the understory of his room, and a small metallic bin sat in the corner, which had been overflowing with crumpled up pieces of paper. "Nothing's good enough," Tails sighed, exasperated, collapsing his head onto his folded up arms in defeat. "Don't say that, Tails," Sonic soothed, sitting down next to the fox and wrapping his arm around the back of his neck, pressing deeply on his shoulder muscles. Almost instinctively, Tails let out a quaint purring sound from his throat as the joy of the massage helped him relax. His muscles loosened as his brain switched off slightly. I need it to be perfect," he moaned. "You're Tails Prower. No matter what you do, I know it'll be perfect." "But I can't think of anything. I'm growing a complete mental blank," the kit protested. "Well, let's see what you have here." Sonic picked up the last sheet of crumpled paper and unfurled it, smoothing out the creases before looking at the design. "I think this looks pretty good," Sonic marveled at the plans. "Of course you'd think that. You don't understand how bad it is," Tails retorted angrily without thinking. He immediately regretted his decision when he saw the hurt in his eyes, and took back what he said. "I'm so sorry. I've just been in a foul mood lately, and I don't know what came over me." He stood up, stretching his legs, and walked over to Sonic, pulling him into a warming hug and placed his lips against the hedgehog's. "If you're really struggling like you are, then I have a few suggestions. Get a nice long rest after having a long, hot shower. Then in the morning, take a relaxing walk to clear your mind and come have a day at school to get a different environment. Then," Sonic continued but was cut off by the fox. "That's it, you're brilliant!" He kissed the cobalt hedgehog and rushed back over to his desk, drawing up some new plans. Thanks, it's not that I don't like taking credit, but what exactly did I do? It's simple. Sometimes you just need your best friend to give you some helpful advice to help you overcome everything, Tails smiled back at him. So you're all good then? Sonic asked, unsure of himself. Yeah, I'm good, Tails replied, waving his hand in the air to show that he wanted Sonic out of the room. Okay, I'll see you at the science fair. Sonic waved goodbye, but Tails was too engrossed with his plans that he didn't even hear the hedgehog's final gesture. The day of the science fair had finally arrived, and the gym was littered with small booths, each holding incredible machines that did unimaginable things. Excuse me, pardon me, out of my way, Sonic yelled, pushing through the crowds of bustling people, eager to see the many new things that were on display. He was already late and was cursing himself. He couldn't miss the unveiling of his best pal's project. Just in time, Blaze nudged him as he busted through a line of people and stumbled over next to Blaze, who was in the front of the circle of amazed onlookers as Tails began his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, Tails began, we have all had those moments when we're trying to think of an idea or in the middle of a project but run into a mental block or writer's block. I have, Blaze called out helpfully, but I have created a solution that will solve everything, Tails continued proudly. Today I am proud to present the BuddyBot 2000! He exclaimed as he pulled the sheet off his invention to reveal a metal version of Sonic. The design was simplistic yet elegant, and it was clear that a lot of effort was put into constructing the outer layer. It had 3 steel quills, which jutted out at different angles, and thin metallic fingers that extended from his sapphire-painted hands. What does it do, Mr. Prower? A judge asked, scribbling notes on his clipboard. I learned from a friend that the best way to get through a mental block is to hear some good advice from a great friend. He smiled, glancing over at Sonic when he said this. My invention has been programmed to listen to the problems of others, be it a mental blank, relationship advice, or something else, and compile the best advice suited to the person asking the question. Okay then, the judge began. My girlfriend just dumped me. What do I do? The metallic Sonic eyes glowed red as his head lifted up. A few seconds passed before it began to speak in a rough robotic voice. It is important to cry when it happens. It's good to get all those bottled up emotions out, and tears are the best way to get this to happen. Take a few days to yourself to really come to terms with what has happened. Then, as days pass, make sure to keep busy and rely on close friends. Hanging out with close mates and going out to have fun is a great way to move on and also to meet new people. It concluded. A round of applause and cheers erupted from the crowd as the judge exited to go deliberate with the others. Tails stepped down off the platform as a line of people began to extend nearby animals, wanting to try it out and get some advice of their own. It's so popular, dude, you'll win for sure, and everyone will want their own BuddyBot, Sonic exclaimed happily, patting his friend on the back to show his moral support. Thanks, Sonic. Want to come with me to check out some other inventions? I have some time to kill, he said. Blaze and Amy, would you like to join? Sonic offered, but before Blaze could answer, Amy quickly grabbed her arm and stepped in front of her. Nah, sorry, we have some girl talk to do. Sonic simply shrugged and ran off with Tails to go marvel at the other machines that had been constructed for the event. What was that for? Blaze moaned, stretching out her arm. Don't you think that looks a lot like Sonic? Amy asked. Of course, it was made after him, Blaze replied. I just think it's a bit weird that Tails would build it after Sonic. Don't you think it's a bit strange? Not really. Wouldn't you want to build something modeled after the one you Blaze stated, but quickly cut short. Her eyes bulged open as she realized what she just said. What did you say? Amy stammered, shocked. Her mouth fell open as the gears in her head began to turn and the last piece of the puzzle fell into place. Nothing. I said nothing. Just stupid old Blaze saying random stuff like she always does. It all makes sense now. All the weird moments I've caught them in. The sudden outburst when somebody picks on Tails, the moment at the hill, the sleepover. Why we hardly ever see those two after school anymore. Amy began rattling off examples and punching herself for not seeing the signs. Amy, please don't tell anybody about them. You know what would happen, Blaze begged. Amy suddenly punched herself in the arm. Oh my chaos! That means they're gay! We have to tell everyone quickly! That's disgusting! They can't be allowed to walk around with everyone else and act like they aren't infecting people! Amy, please! They're our friends. We can't just treat them like animals! Blaze pleaded with the pink hedgehog. I can't believe I ever loved that weirdo. This explains why he just never showed any interest, she huffed in annoyance. Just wait until I tell everyone, she beamed, making a streamline for the microphone where Tails had previously announced his project. Blaze quickly grabbed her dress, pulling her backwards, causing her to trip and fall on her back. The anger was clearly present in her eyes. Blaze had to think of something quick before Amy did something that she would regret. But Amy, think about it, you can use this against Sonic. He would have to go out with you now, Blaze said, flustered, hating herself for saying it, but knowing that it was the only way to stop her from blabbing their secret to the crowd. The violet feline still wasn't sure how she felt about the whole thing, but she wanted to make up a decision on her own and not let this be hot-headed, short-tempered hedgehog run Sonic and Tails' lives without properly thinking of it all through. Good point. Sonic will have to do everything I say. This is perfect! Thanks, Blaze. I'll go tell him the good news. She skipped off evilly, eager to see the look on his face when she tells him that she has to be her boyfriend, or else his secret will be revealed. What have I done? She cursed herself inside her head. She couldn't take it anymore. The constant battle of mind and heart that had been waged inside her all week, along with her spilling the beans to Amy of all people, was too much for her to bear. She opened her mouth and let the bile and vomit spill onto the floor as the contents of her stomach escaped up her esophagus and out onto the stage floor. That was an interesting chapter, wasn't it? We'll see you next time for Chapter 15. Have a good one.